It's crazy how easy online shopping is these days, right? It can be 2 a.m, you're lying in bed, practically anything you want at your fingertips. It's like the biggest mall ever, and they never close, and you can shop in your underwear. And smart online businesses know they need to make that checkout process as easy as possible, or customers will just abandon their carts and move on to something else. Have you ever been shopping online, put something in your cart, and then seen that simple purple Shop Pay button? One click, your payment and shopping info is done, and you're back to browsing something else. Well, that purple button means the store is using Shopify. Everything's done with one click, and it makes life easier for everybody. Shopify is the commerce platform of choice for millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from the small startups to the juggernauts like Mattel and Gymshark. If you don't know how to make a website, they got you with their ready-to-go templates. Need help getting the heavy lifting lifted? Shopify's AI tools can help with product images and descriptions, discount codes, and more. How do I show people my product? Yeah, it's Shopify. They offer easy-to-run email and social media campaigns. And did I mention that purple Shop Pay button? That one that's used by millions of businesses around the world? That's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. If you want to see less carts being abandoned, it's time for you to head over to Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/RTG. Go to shopify.com/RTG. Shopify.com/RTG. What's up, everybody? Oh my God, my voice is cracking right in. I'll leave it in there. That was what's up? What are you going to do? Yeah. Oh, so you don't like the infamous hit show, huh? What are you going to do? Start your own podcast in your treehouse and invite all your little friends to come over and be on it? I'd like to see that. Shout out to anyone who gets that reference. That's fitting. That's a fitting intro to this week's episode. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Remember the Game. Traditionally, it's my retro gaming podcast where my buddy and I sit down and geek out about the games we played back in the day. But that is not the case this week. For you regular listeners, you probably are aware that I sometimes skip a Wednesday a month. I try to do the first Wednesday of the month, but not always. To just kind of catch up on the backlog and get things under control. And life is crazy away from the microphone here at Remember the Game Industries these days. We have a new puppy running around. She's awesome. She's right here right now. I've had a lot of company over at the house. I've just had some other things going on. And as such, I'm running way behind on video games because I'm tackling some big fucking games on the show in the next few weeks. And basically, short story long, I need a few days to get caught up. So you're getting a Patreon freebie this week to buy me a little bit of time to catch up on games. And this week, we're going back to May 18th of 2022, and I am ranking all the Simpsons video games. As you've probably surmised by listening to the show over the years or the months or the days or whatever, this is your first episode. Guess what? I'm a pretty big Simpsons fan. And I was about to say I love Simpsons video games, but love is a loose term. I tolerate, and are friends with benefits, depending on the game, with various Simpsons video games. So that's what I'm doing this week. It's been way too long since we've had a new one. Hopefully that gets fixed soon. But in the meantime and in between time, I hope you enjoyed this episode from 3 years ago where I count down all the Simpsons video games from the worst to the best. If you like this, here comes the standard plug. Please consider checking out our Patreon. It starts at just $3 a month. You get new episodes every week. There is, as of this recording, 271 expansion passes done over there waiting for you to listen to, along with a few top secret episodes, which are what we were calling expansion pass before it was expansion pass. There's funny episodes, there's rankings, there's modern game reviews, the blankies are all over there, all of our predictions episodes are over there, tons of hypothetical episodes, deep discussions, shallow discussions, a little bit of everything. And you can write into the show and do all that other, you guys know the blurb, I do it every week. So patreon.com/remember the game. If you enjoy this, go over there and check it out. Don't forget too, you also get Remember the Game ad free over there. So for all of you that are like, I hate the intros, why is it the more timestamps? If you become a Patreon, I put the timestamps right there in the description because there's no ads to fuck the timestamps up, so you can jump around as much as your heart desires. All right, so enjoy this episode. We're going to rank some Simpsons video games. And next week, Remember the Game, we'll be back with episode 347, where we'll be talking Toe Jam and Earl Panic on Funkotron, which is kind of, it's not without its charm, but it's okay. And then 348, 349. I'm not sure which order those 2 episodes are going to go in, but one is going to be Fire Emblem for the GBA, and the other is going to be Final Fantasy 2 for the Super Nintendo, 4 everywhere else. I hate having to say that. Revisited. And that is all building up to episode 350 that'll drop in early October, which the plan is to review GTA 5 on, but I've barely started GTA 5 because I'm still trying to get through Fire Emblem. So I got to get through Fire Emblem, and then I can get through GTA 5, plus Silksong sitting there looking at me, and I'm like, I know, my precious. I've been waiting for you. There's just too many games. How does anyone play everything? Anyways, enjoy this episode, ranking Simpsons episodes, and or Simpsons video games, whatever the fuck, and we'll be back next week, okay? Cheers. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Remember the Game expansion. No, it's not. I fucked up the intro. I'm going to stick with it. Welcome to the 111th edition. 100th. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 111th edition of Remember the Game Expansion Pass. It is one of our Patreon exclusive weekly podcasts here at Remember the Game Industries. My name is Adam Blank, and you would think that after 111 fucking expansion passes, I would know how to do the intro, but not this guy. Anyway, if you're hearing my voice, watching my voice, perhaps watching my voice live on a stream as I record these very words, you're probably second-guessing your decision to sponsor this podcast because you're like, this guy doesn't even know how to get through the first 3 sentences of the words that he has to say for the show. But you've also decided to sponsor this podcast with a couple of bucks of your hard-earned money, and if that is the case, thank you so much. And know that while I am wasting most of your money on drugs and alcohol, I am trying to get better at saying words. I really am trying. I swear. The effort is, I think people see that. People are like, you know what? Not a great podcast, but goddamned if that fucking kid doesn't try really hard. And that's all I can do. That's all I can do. I can only be myself. I can only try. And this week, for expansion, excuse me, there, not only can I not say the words, but I have fucking boogers in my throat or something. Holy Christ, I suck at this. So a good podcaster would just start over, but that's not how we fucking work around Remember the Game Industries. This week for Expansion Pass number 111, I'm breaking out one of my patented ranking episodes, wearing my ranking pants, which are actually just a pair of tight Daisy Duke shorts. Be grateful. The video version of this podcast is only from my breasts up, and I am going to rank the Simpsons video games that I've played. I'm not ranking every Simpsons video game ever. I'm just ranking the ones that I've played. I cannot imagine there's a person listening to these words right now that doesn't know that I'm just a little bit of a Simpsons junkie, at least back in the day. I haven't watched a lot of it past about season 12. I tried once and I gave up because I was like, this hurts my face. But back in the day, I was a Simpsons super junkie. When I was a kid, I remember when I was in elementary school, I would get home from school and there would be 4 episodes of The Simpsons back to back across a couple of different channels, and I would just watch them every day. And not only was I obsessed with watching the cartoons, I would listen to the Simpsons Sing the Blues soundtrack on my cassette tape player, which was fucking excellent. I had the comic books, I had posters, I had clothes, and of course, I had the video games. I played just about everything I could get my hands on that had Bart Simpson on the cover, whether it was good, which was rare but around, whether it was bad, which was incredibly common, or whether it was awful, which there are a few of those as well. And this is an episode that I've wanted to do for quite a long time. It's just that I haven't played every Simpsons game, and so I was like, can I really do a Simpsons ranking episode if I haven't played every episode, or I haven't played every entry in the franchise. But then I looked at some of the ones that I haven't played. There's Bart and the Beanstalk, there's the Itchy and Scratchy game, there's the infamous Simpsons Wrestling, and I was like, I'm probably never gonna play any of these anyways, except maybe Simpsons Wrestling, and I'm quite confident that if I do play Simpsons Wrestling, it's gonna end up at dead last on my list anyway. So I figured, fuck it, I'm just gonna pull the trigger. I have 13 Simpsons video games that I have played, and they range from the arcade game to my beloved Bart vs. the Space Mutants, to Krusty's Fun House, to the mobile game Tapped Out. That's on my list. I ranked every Simpsons game I've played. I'm going to count them down from worst to best, in my opinion, of course. I'm going to read some of your takes, too, and I think this episode should be awesomely outrageous. And we'll get to that in just a minute because, as you know, part of your Patreon perk is a peek past the podcast. So if you could just hold on to the handrail and not spit over the side and shout out anyone that got that reference, I'll tell you what's been going on around here over the past 7 days or so. And I think the biggest news in the world of Remember the Game over the last week is that I finally got two very large fish. Dude, what the fuck? Why can't I say I'm even worse at this than normal? The biggest news in the world of Remember the Game this week is I got two very large fish off my pan. I think that is how the saying goes. The big one being I fucking finally finished Final Fantasy Tactics. I've been playing that game for 2 months, and this past week I really put the blinders on, and I basically just played it every fucking chance I had. Anytime I got more than like 2 minutes, I was breaking out the iPad, plugging away at Final Fantasy Tactics, and I'm done. I wrapped it up. It's finished. And in case you're wondering right now, no, I didn't do everything. I didn't go and do everything, but I did beat the game. I have seen the credits, so I'm locked and loaded for Remember the Game episode 200. I believe we're going to record the game chat portion of that episode on Monday. And that episode will officially go live on June 1st. So I know people are looking forward to that episode, so I hope that it lives up to your expectations when it comes to Final Fantasy Tactics. And people have been asking me if I liked it or not, because a lot of people love that game, and they don't want to hear me hurt their baby and rip it a new ass on the podcast. So I'm keeping my cards very close to my my moves, but I am just going to say, yeah, it was a really fun game. I did like it. I have played it. It's certainly not going to be another Sonic Adventure 2 episode or anything like that. There's one thing that I have a pretty big beef with in that game, which I'll get into, but I don't think Angry Adam is going to show up or anything. If by and large, Final Fantasy Tactics lived up to the hype, it's going to be a pretty positive episode. And then the other game that I got off my pan was Fable, which won the big 2-year second chance Patreon poll that we did a couple of months ago, if you don't remember. To celebrate 24 Patreon polls, I took one of the losers, one of the duds from each of those 24 polls and put them in a second chance poll. And I think Metal Gear Solid 3 was the runner-up, but Fable ran away pretty handedly with that poll. So I said at some point this year I would get around to playing it, and I'm done. I have wrapped it up as well, so we're going to have an episode coming up on that one. I did not like it as much as I did Final Fantasy Tactics, but I didn't hate it. I would say it was very hit and miss, very hit and miss. So that episode is going live sometime in June as well. Right now I'm playing Pokemon Gold, which I hope to finish sometime in the next couple of weeks, and then you'll get an episode about that. And I'm starting Splinter Cell tonight, Wednesday night, as it was the Patreon poll winner for the month of, what month are we in? May. So I'll be getting to Splinter Cell. So loosely, the next 4 to 5 episodes of Remember the Game potentially could be Mickey Mouse and the Castle of Illusion, Final Fantasy Tactics, Fable, Pokemon Gold, and Splinter Cell. And that, I think, is a pretty decent month of retro gaming podcasts. I think that's pretty all right. And we've also got episodes planned for Silent Hill 3, Grand Theft Auto 4, Metal Slug 3, Jak and Daxter, which I know I've been teasing forever, but we are going to get there. We really want to do a Gears of War episode in the coming months. I just need time to rip through that game again. So we might run out of ammo someday for this podcast, but we're not fucking there yet. Another thing I've decided that I quickly wanted to touch on here in the peek past the podcast is that I have decided that I'm going to do another 10 revisited episodes during the stretch from 200 to 300 episodes of Remember the Game. I'm sure most of you know, we did that beginning with Remember the Game number 105, and then every 10 episodes. So 105, 15, 125, 135, 145, 155, etc. We talked about what are the games we covered in the first 10 to 12 episodes of Remember the Game. And it's not because those episodes suck, although I think they suck. Not because my guests suck, but because I sucked and I didn't know what I wanted the show to be. And I suck a little less these days, so I wanted to give some of those great games a second chance and another shot at the spotlight. So we are going to do that again and revisit some games that we covered probably between about episode 12 and episode 25. And I'll start that with episode 205 of Remember the Game and then skip ahead every 10 episodes, do another one again. Some of the games that are probably going to get a revisited episode include WWF No Mercy, Mega Man X, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, Super Mario Bros. 3, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the NES. Those are some of the episodes I have planned for the revisits in the next 100 episodes or so. So, I mean, I do always worry that someday we're going to run out of video games to talk about, and maybe someday we will run out of games to talk about, but we're not there yet, not by a fucking long shot. I just need to find time to play more of them, but we still have tons to talk about. I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum, like the list of games that people want me to cover on the podcast that I've just never played is longer than my arm, and I've got fucking long arms. So, yeah, don't worry. Have no fear. We got podcasts for years. Shout out to you with that reference. And I think that's it. Oh, yes. No, there was one other thing. And I can't remember if I already touched on this, so I'm going to go really fast. And then if I didn't already touch on it and you have questions, by all means, feel free to DM me over on the old Patreon box. As you may or may not know, we offer people the chance to sponsor episodes of Remember the Game. It's the highest tier on our Patreon. And basically, you pick a game for us to cover on the show. There are some exceptions. People have said, can I do Echo 2? Can I do a Sega Saturn game? Can I do Majora's Mask? And the answer to those is no. There are a few that I've got plans for or that I've said they aren't going to happen. So I always tell people, please DM me before you sign up on that tier and talk to me about the game you're interested in. But then I'll play through the game you picked. And then you and I will hook up for a nice, long, beefy Discord or Zoom chat. I'll record a portion of it, put it in the intro. Some of you have heard some of those episodes already. Mass Effect 2, Shadow of the Colossus, Resident Evil Code Veronica, Gunsmoke, or just a few of those examples. But I have it limited to one at a time right now. And I did that because I was trying to keep track of like how many, I didn't expect anyone to sign up, and the response to that tier has been outstanding. So what I think I'm going to do is get rid of the limited amount available, and I'm just going to tackle them in first come, first serve basis. And I've already got 1, 2, 3, I think 4 on the go right now, or 4 in the bank. So like I am telling people, you're looking at about a 3-month window before I can get to the episode you want me to cover. But I am going to remove that limited available and just make it open to everybody. I'm certainly not pressuring anyone to sign up or feel any pressure to sign up. I just get a lot of messages from people asking, when will it be available for me to sign up? I'm just going to open it up to the masses and tackle them in the order that they come in on. Okay. So if you have any questions about that tier, by all means, I encourage it. DM me over on Patreon. You can message me on Instagram or Twitter or whatever too, but I don't check my DMs on there that often because I get so much fucking spam. Your best bet is over on Patreon because I don't get any spam over there. So that's the sweet spot. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's really it. Let's talk Simpsons. Yeah, let's talk Simpsons. That's why you kids are here. I've ranted for 11 minutes. That's enough as it is. Let's talk about the Simpsons. I'm going to rank all my favorite Simpsons games. Before I do that, I'm going to cue up some music. There it is. And when the music stops, I'm going to rank every Simpsons game that I have played from worst to best. Enjoy the podcast, everybody. Let's go. For anyone that knows what that song is from, that's the mall level in Bart versus the Space Mutants, and it just gives me anxiety listening to it because I can just think of that I can just think of that motherfucking part where you have to jump on the lollipops, the suckers, on the rotating sticks that are over the wet cement, and they're super hard to stick the landing on. You got to nail it perfectly, and if you slide off or don't quite land on it just spot on, then you end up in the wet cement and die, and it's just fucking Bart versus Space Mutants is such a load of shit. Fuck that game. Anyways, so there's been a lot of Simpsons video games over the years. I think most of you know that, and they've ranged from like pretty, not bad, good. They're all right. They're good. To Abomination. I would say at like the highest end. And listen, I'm not going to name the games, but you all know what 2 Simpsons games are at like the top echelon of the S tier of Simpsons games. I would put them in around that like 8.5 out of 10. Like those are good video games. And then they go down to like a 1 when you get down to the bottom. And anyone that wasn't alive back in the 90s when the Simpsons were fucking everywhere, you might not remember it. They were so big. Like I said, I used to get home and watch 2 hours of the Simpsons every day. Same episodes, didn't matter to me, over and over and over again. So while some of you were playing the good games from the 80s and 90s that you were after me to cover on the podcast that I can't cover because I haven't played, I was busy playing the shitty Simpsons games on the Game Boy, the NES, the SNES, the arcade. If Bart's stupid face was on the box, I was excited. I was interested in covering it or playing it. So I'm going to rank every Simpsons game I've played. And I wasn't sure if I should rank them by quality or if I should rank them by preference. So I kind of combined the two. I'm ranking them in what I think is the worst to best, but also the funnest to, or the least fun to the most fun. There's a little bit of Adam bias in here, but not much. I think like if I thought the game was fun, it's going to go a little bit higher on my list. I think, like I said, everyone knows what the top two are going to be. I still think this is going to be a good time, and I do think there's at least one big surprise, one game that's going to be way higher than I think some people expect it to be. And I already warned people in the pre-stream for this recording, I'm not playing the music from every game before I count them down like I do in some of my rankings, because it's not like the Simpsons games have the most memorable fucking soundtracks of all time. It's mostly just remixes of the Simpsons theme, so I'm not going to do that, all right? And just quickly to let you know some of the games that did not make the list because I did not play them. Bart and the Beanstalk for the Game Boy was a game that I never got my hands on. It looks very shitty. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. The Itchy and Scratchy games I never played. So I want to say I rented Itchy and Scratchy for the Super Nintendo like once as a kid. But if I did, I don't remember anything about it. And frankly, Itchy and Scratchy are at their best in 30-second intervals at best. They're fucking hilarious in 30-second intervals, but that's enough. I don't need a full game about them. So I'm going to give that a 4 out of 10. The Simpsons Bowling, which I believe comes in the Simpsons Arcade 1-Up cabinet these days, and it's like the Golden Tee type mechanic where you spin the big white ball to bowl on it. I've never played it either, but it looks okay. It looks like a generic bowling game. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Declan McGarry wrote in and said, one of the first ever Simpsons games I had was Virtual Springfield. The family PC barely met the minimum requirements to run it, and it moved slower than a one-armed sloth, but I absolutely loved it. I really felt like I was peeking behind the curtain of everything that goes on in this living town outside of their episodic adventures. Looking back, I've read nothing but mediocre reviews of it at the time of release, but my 9-year-old brain thought it was the coolest thing on PC since that Windows Space Cadet pinball game. So I've never played that one either, although I did have a couple of people write in about that, which I thought was very cool. I never knew that was even a thing. That actually I would have fucking never put that down if I was a kid and we had a computer that worked. But all right, so that one's not on my list because I've never heard of it. And then the other one that didn't make my list are the infamous PS1 games, The Simpsons Wrestling and The Simpsons Skateboarding. And Munch Makuchi wrote in and said, this may be a bit of a hot take, but my favorite Simpsons game is still Simpsons Wrestling. Looking back now, I'm really shocked at the low scores that it got. It wasn't the deepest game in the world, but it was a solid fighting/wrestling game. There are a ton of notable characters that you wouldn't expect. I'm looking at you, Bumblebee Man. Ay, ay, ay. And every character has original dialogue recorded for the game. The stages are really neat too. I still love facing Apu in the Quickie Mart parking lot ring, but there was a lot of challenge as well. Facing Mr. Burns and Smithers made me so angry. I know a lot of people skip this title because the reviews are not favorable, but if you're a Simpsons fan, a fan of fighting games or wrestling games, you have to give this game a chance. It's one of my fondest memories for the original PlayStation era. So I have never played Simpsons Wrestling or Simpsons Skateboarding, and I remember when those games were announced, and I was so stoked. I was like, I gotta imagine. Dude, if you don't remember, they were PS1 games, and I remember when they came out, but like late 90s probably, and like that's when like the Tony Hawk games were at their peak, and everyone was fucking playing the Tony Hawk games, and that's when pro wrestling was white hot, and we had like WWF No Mercy, and fucking the SmackDown games, and like big wrestling games, so it made sense to take the Simpsons and tie them into arguably the two hottest properties in gaming at that time, which were, other than a shooter, it would have been skateboarding and wrestling. But I remember seeing the reviews being so catastrophically bad that I never played those games. I tried to rent them both a couple of times, and they were always out when I tried to rent them, and I've never played them. And I would, especially Simpsons Wrestling, I really would like to go back and give it a chance at some point, but I've decided I don't know when or if that's ever going to happen, so I'm going to go ahead with my ranking episode without them. So even though I've not played them, I'm officially slotting them in at 15th for Simpsons Skateboarding and 14th for Simpsons Wrestling. I'm giving Simpsons Skateboarding a 0.4 out of 10, and I'm giving Simpsons Wrestling a 0.6 out of 10 because you both offend me. But I do think eventually at least wrestling could get an episode of Remember the Game. So, okay, so those are the ones that are not on the list that I haven't played. So let's get into the ones I have played. Of course, I'm going to read some of your comments as well. Josh Valentini wrote into us on Patreon and said, hi. That's it. I don't know if Josh meant to fucking type other shit in there and accidentally hit enter, or if you literally just wrote in and said hi. And please do not let this start a trend. When I said that I like to read comments of people saying it was their first time, now everybody says it's their first time. Even when I'm like, we literally hooked up on last week's episode. You're not a virgin. You're not a comment virgin anymore. Get the fuck out of here. So I don't want everybody to just start writing in and saying hi, because you're not going to get on the goddamn show with a simple hi comment. But Josh, you were the first, and I respect the first. So great fucking comment. Hi. Anyways, let's get the list started. I'm going to start with number 13, the worst Simpsons game that I have played, Virtual fucking Bart. For this SNES and the Sega Genesis, I hate this fucking game. I hate it. And you all know I fucking hate it. I've talked about it on the show. I have a whole episode of Remember the Game dedicated to it. I think it is in the bottom 5. Just in case anyone's wondering, probably the 5 worst games I think we've reviewed on Remember the Game are Mario is Missing, Echo the Dolphin, Shaq Fu, Virtual Bart. All right, I'm just going to go 4 because the 5th one could be a couple of things. And I'm sure if I say something, I'll have forgotten something and everyone will be like, oh my God, he didn't say fucking Sonic Adventure 2 is not in his bottom 5. I'm just saying those are 4 of the worst games I've ever played. And Virtual Bart is awful. It sucks. I know that Simpsons games need stupid gimmicks. You can't, other than the Simpsons game, which you're going to see much higher on this list. But I know that for the most part, Simpsons games need a dumb gimmick to sell it. And quite frankly, I do think Virtual Bart is one of the better gimmicks in all of the Simpsons games. The idea that Bart gets strapped into this virtual reality machine and it takes him to all these weird places and you got to play all these weird side missions and shit to get out of the machine. I'm on board with that. I think that's a great idea, but I just think I even think that some of the virtual reality worlds are cool ideas. Going down Mount Splashmore or whatever it's called, the fucking water slide and getting stuck behind Homer. That I think Mount Splashmore was the name of the park. I can't remember if it was the name of the slide, but it doesn't matter. Going down the water slide and getting stuck behind Homer is fun, but it's a stupid, fucking randomly generated crappy mini game. The one where you're the dinosaur is fucking terrible. The one where you're Baby Bart is fucking terrible. The Road Rash episode should be the side mission should be the coolest mission in that game, but it's the fucking worst mission in that game. The only little quest in that game that's fun is the tomato throwing one, where you're throwing tomatoes at the kids lining up for their picture outside of Springfield Elementary, and even that runs its course very fast. I think Virtual Bart is just a pile of hot ass. I hate it, and it is the worst Simpsons game I've ever played. Joel LeBlanc wrote in and said, hot take, I love Virtual Bart on the SNES. The Genesis version is a little bit harder. That is a very hot take, Joel, and you're on double secret probation for defending that fucking game. I know everyone's entitled to their opinions, but there shan't be any defending of Virtual Bart in my fucking house, sir. You're in my home right now. Don't do that in my home, Joel. Now, that said, I did have it in my... Sorry, I took a big sip of my coffee, and I thought I was away from the microphone, but I don't think I was. I did have it in my notes that I would love to see a sandbox-style virtual reality game where you can walk around Springfield and explore. But I wrote that before I put your comments in and then found out from many of your comments that game actually exists. So I'm going to say they should remake Virtual Bart into something like that and get rid of Virtual Bart forever. My official ranking out of 10 is 2. Virtual Bart gets a 2 out of 10. It fucking sucks. Worst game on my list. Number 12. On my Simpsons countdown list is Bartman meets Radioactive Man for the NES and the Sega Game Gear. I don't know if you guys, I don't think I've ever brought this game up on the podcast ever. I don't think. I don't remember a ton about it. I did rent it 2 or 3 times when I was a kid because Bartman was on the cover, and I like Bartman. When I was listen, again, going back to like the early 90s, if you were around back then and watch it, like Bart was everywhere, and now Homer's the face of that show, but Bart used to be the face of that show, and Bartman was everywhere for a while too, his like alter ego. I can still picture like Bartman with like the purple cowl with like the slingshot pulled back. Like, look at it. So anyway, Bartman is on the cover. Radioactive Man is on the cover. I like both of them. Frankly, to this day, I think Bartman meets Radioactive Man should be the best NES Simpsons game. I think it should be. But all it ended up being is the same broken, shitty platforming as Bart versus the Space Mutants and Bart versus the World, but with less Simpsons references and less fun. They tried to make it into just like a normal generic action platforming game, and it really, without all the Simpsons references, Bartman meets Radioactive Man is like a flaming mole without flame. It's not without its charm. Like it's no good. It's not this. I rented it a couple of times and I just stayed away from it. Even little one-eyed dipshit Adam that would just be like, I rented the Ghostbusters game for the NES a billion times knowing that it sucked because I was a sucker for the logo. Even I knew to stay away from Bartman meets Radioactive Man because I knew that it just wasn't very good. And the thing is like, if there's one thing the NES did really well, it was platformers. And so if you're going to make a shitty platformer, you better have a gimmick that hooks me. And Bartman meets Radioactive Man fucking did not. Not a very good game. I will say best box art of any Simpsons game on the NES, but that's not saying much. Not a very good game. 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10 is my official score for the 12th ranked Simpsons game on my list. Bartman meets Radioactive Man. This is an ad by BetterHelp. This is a true story. I was getting my beard cut just a couple of days ago, and I'm sitting in the barber shop, and the guy in the chair next to me is just going off about his divorce to the barbers and the rest of us there, and we're all having a laugh about it. But you could tell the guy genuinely just needed an ear to bend. And talking to someone can help, right? And a barber might be a master at comb-overs, but they're not necessarily the most qualified person to help you through a tough time. If you're working through anxiety, relationship issues, depression, a credentialed therapist might be a better choice. And BetterHelp can make that happen with their online therapy service. I've been saying it for years, but I couldn't believe how much talking to a therapist helped me when I needed to. They don't just know how to listen, they know how to help you. BetterHelp has been helping people find the right therapist for them for over 10 years, and they're rocking a 4.9 rating out of 1.7 million client session reviews. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct, and they're all fully licensed in the US. You'll just fill out a quick questionnaire to let BetterHelp know what's on your mind, and then they'll pair you with one of their over 30,000 therapists online that they feel best suits your needs. And if it's not the right fit, you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Find the one with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/rememberthegame. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rememberthegame. So I would say that those two games are the bottom tier. That's the D tier of Simpsons games for me. So now we're jumping up. We've moved up one level. Now we're still not saying these are great games, but now we're into the at least 5 out of 10 C tier Simpsons games. And number 11 on my list is Bart Simpson's Escape from Camp Deadly, which was a Game Boy game from remember the old puke green Game Boy? It was a Game Boy game. Now, I did not own this game, but my friend Daniel, I think my friend Daniel did. Somebody I knew as a kid had it. I want to say it was my buddy Daniel. And I used to play there sometimes. I'd borrow it off him and play it. And honestly, to this day, I think it's okay. I don't think it's great. It's just another very boring, basic, slow-moving, side-scrolling Game Boy platformer, but I mean, at least it controlled well compared to the NES games. You could tell what stuff was. You got to control Bart and have him help Lisa break out of Camp Deadly. Dude, I don't remember how to say your name now. A Portillo, I think is how you say it. Comedy. Wrote in and said, it looks like Aportillo. I'm sorry. It's spelled Aportillo. And so I know that's not how, you know what? No. From now on, you're Aportillo Comedy. People don't get their names pronounced correctly around these fucking necks of the woods. That's not how Remember the Game works. Aportillo Comedy wrote in and said, after the Simpsons arcade game, which should be everyone's favorite, it was the Game Boy game Bart Simpson's Escape from Camp Deadly, because it was the only one I played and I could beat. So, which, fair enough. If it's the only other one you played, then I guess by default, the two sweetest words in the English language, it has to be second. But I really do think this is not a bad game. It's not available anywhere. If you want to play it, you're either going to have to go buy one at a flea market or download the ROM. And I don't suggest really going out of your way to play it because it doesn't do anything all, particularly well. I just remember it being okay. One thing I remember being very cool in this game was that you could use food as a weapon in some levels and throw it. But if a camp counselor caught you, they would make you eat all the food you had and then you'd have no ammo left, which I actually thought was a fucking really, really cool mechanic. This is a fine game. I also wanted to dunk on it on this episode for not being Escape from Camp Krusty, but then I was reading that this game came out about a year before the Camp Krusty episode of The Simpsons, so I have to give it a pass on that. Although I will say they should remake this game as The Simpsons Escape from Camp Krusty with Mr. Black as the final enemy instead of some shitty Mr. Burns spinoff, which every fucking Simpsons game seems to do. I think that would have been awesome. So I never beat it, but I would say it was a typical middle of the road vanilla Game Boy platformer. 5 out of 10 is my official score for number 11, Bart Simpson's Escape from Camp Deadly. 5 out of 10. It's literally like the bare minimum of a pass for that game. Number 10 on my list is one that I have talked about before, but I don't think we haven't done an episode of Remember the Game yet, but we are going to at some point. And that is Bart versus the World for the NES, the Game Gear, and the Sega Master System. I like Bart versus the Space Mutants better, but that's because I owned it. But I really like the variety in Bart versus the World. I rented this game very regularly when I was a kid. You got to go to different Bart. I don't remember the exact storyline, but it was something like Bart won a fucking trip around the world, but then in all these different places, you got to go to the Great Wall of China, and you got to go to the Antarctic or something. In all of them, there was an ancestor of Mr. Burns there, because it's always fucking weird Mr. Burns spin-off enemies. But you got to go to all these places, and then whenever you picked whatever location you wanted to go to, there would be an actual platforming level, there'd be a trivia game, there'd be one of those, I can't remember the technical term for these puzzles, but when you got like a sliding puzzle, and it's like a 4x4 cube, but there's one piece missing. And so there's always one gap to slide pieces into, and you have to make an image. There's always one of those levels in it and stuff like that. And I liked just the variety. The platforming is still as broken as it is in Bart versus the Space Mutants. And the part where you have to skateboard down the Great Wall of China is really great in concept, really horrible in execution. It handles like shit, and it's broken, and it's hard, and it's not fair. But it's like a shittier Bart versus the Space Mutants. Bart versus the World is not a terrible game. We're probably going to review it on Remember the Game at some point because I played the fuck out of it as a kid. Jeff C. wrote into us on Patreon and said, the Simpsons arcade game is the best by a mile. I used to like Bart versus the World when I was a kid, but I played it recently and it's complete garbage. The jumping mechanics are as bad as it gets. I don't fucking disagree with you at all, Jeff. If they just fix the jumping mechanics in Bart versus the Space Mutants and Bart versus the World and Bart Man Meets Radioactive Man, all three of those games would get like a 2-point jump on their enjoyability if the jumping just fucking worked. You can't like a platformer with broken jumping is just it's like a bowling ball without a liquid center. It just doesn't fucking work. So 5 out of 10 again to number 10, Bart versus the World. Not a great game. Number 9 on my list is Krusty's Funhouse, and that was released on a ton of stuff: NES, SNES, Genesis. I think it was on the Game Gear. It was on a whole bunch of consoles. We owned Krusty's Funhouse when I was a kid on the NES. We had the NES version, and it's not the greatest puzzle game you've ever played, but I think it's actually kind of fun. Now, the one thing is like, I think it's maybe like a less shitty Mario is Missing, because I think people bought Mario is Missing thinking it was a Mario game and then finding out it was like a shitty educational game. I think people probably bought Krusty's Funhouse thinking that it would be like a platformer with Krusty, and it turns out like, no, it's a puzzle game. But that said, it's certainly not as boring and shitty as Mario is Missing. Like it's a half decent puzzle game. Basically, Krusty's Funhouse has been infested with rats, and it's like a reverse Lemmings kind of. You need to find a way to guide these rats into these extermination devices that are in every level that are manned by like Homer and Bart and Sideshow Mel. And it's actually surprisingly entertaining. It's not a terrible game. It's not the deepest puzzle game in the world, but like I would say it's not as good as like an Adventures of Lolo, but it's, you know, it's got a Simpsons spin. It's not awful. It's not awful. Evan O'Brien wrote in and said, my sister and I bought Krusty's Super Fun House at a flea market when we were kids. What a shit game. Maybe it is awful. Randomly, she'll remind me how I still owe her for making her spend her money on that game and how she's not forgiving me for buying it. I totally get how it wouldn't be for everybody. Maybe I'm just remembering it with like rose-colored glasses because I haven't played Krusty's Funhouse in like, probably 30 years. But I liked that game when I was a kid. And Cheesehead West, see, Cheesehead West knows what's up. Cheesehead West wrote me in and said, call me crazy, but I have a real fondness for Krusty's Funhouse. I know it's not one many people would think of, but I love it. It was the first Simpsons game I ever played, and I still go back to it occasionally. Yeah, I thought it was like, okay. It was a decent puzzle game that had Simpsons references in it, and they could have done worse with Krusty. They could have done better. It would have been cooler to see like a platformer in Krusty's Funhouse. But it was nice. They tried something different, and I don't think it was terrible. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 on my score for Krusty's Funhouse. Number 9 on my list of Simpsons video games. Number 8. This is the one that I'm sure some of you were like, where's he going to put that beloved piece of shit video game that he loves so much? Number 8 on my list is Bart versus the Space Mutants for the NES, the Game Gear, and the Sega Genesis. It is the best of the worst shitty Simpsons NES games. I've talked about this game ad nauseum. There's an entire episode about it in Remember the Game archives. I think most of you know how I feel about Bart versus the Space Mutants. I don't think it's objectively that good a video game, but I grew up with it, and it's got a nice little corner in the softest part of my rock hard heart, because I like this stupid game, even though it's not very good. Raging Demon wrote in and said, Bart versus the Space Mutants. On Master System, I've played Krusty's Funhouse and Bart's Nightmare and the classic coin muncher of a beat 'em up, but I still rate that horrible game that is Space Mutants. The first level of Bart vs. Space Mutants is good. After that, sure, it's not. I'm not stupid. I know it's not a great game, but I like it. If you're interested in more information on Bart vs. the Space Mutants, check out the episode of Remember the Game in our archives, or there's a Let's Play of Adam Sucks at Video Games where I beat Bart vs. the Space Mutants over on you. I fucking beat it. Fair and square, other than, oh, dude, yeah, almost, because I used save states in the museum trying to make that fucking jump onto the T-Rex, which is the biggest load of shit of all time. And there's actually a montage set to Little Spanish Flea in that episode that's worth looking up. It is pretty entertaining. 6 out of 10, Bart versus the Space Mutants. I like it. I know it's not good. I don't think anyone that didn't grow up with it would like it today, but I think it's okay. Now, to me, that's the C tier of Simpsons games. And now in my eyes, there's another clear divide between Bart versus the Space Mutants at 8 and the game that I have slotted in at 7. So I would say we're now moving into the B tier of Simpsons games. This is where, like, to me, these games are like, I could still pick these up and play these today and semi-enjoy myself. Number 7 on my list is Bart versus the Juggernauts for the Game Boy. And maybe some people that grew up with this game are going to disagree with me and maybe say it's not, I don't know if I would say, like, it's certainly not great, but, like, it's entertaining. I think it's I frankly think it might be the best concept of any Simpsons game. Top 3 anyway. I think it's a great fucking concept. The controls actually worked for the most part. They were fairly tight. And if you practiced this game, it was very difficult. But if you practiced, I could get really far into this game. I couldn't beat it, but I could get really far into this game. There's a ton of Simpsons references as well. So if you don't know what this is, it's basically like a spoof of American Gladiators. That's what the Juggernauts are. And I don't remember how, but Bart found his way onto this show. And everyone's like, well, Bart can't beat these American Gladiator looking people. And so you basically have to find a way to beat them in all these little events. And there's just tons of dope references. Between every little mini game, you have Kent Brockman and Dr. Marvin Monroe doing commentary, talking about how you're doing. Some of the events include you wrestle at Moe's Tavern on the pool table. There's a joust, and the 2 towers are like the 2 towers of the nuclear power plant, and you're standing over a bunch of nuclear waste, and you have to knock the Juggernaut off of it. There's like a Quickie Mart game where the guard dogs are chasing you, and you have like sausages you can jump and you drop, and you have to climb to the top to get away from them. There's Hop, Skip, and Fry, which is the best mini game in the bunch. It's like a giant checkerboard, and you have like an isometric view, and there's 2 Juggernauts randomly hopping around on this checkerboard, and then you're Bart. And you have to hop from one side of the checkerboard to the other side, and the tiles are always changing places. And if you land on a white one, you're fine. If you land on a black one, you get electrocuted and have to go back. And at one side of the board, you pick up a ball, and on the other side of the board, there's a hoop that you can put the ball in to get points. And you have to get across. If you land on the Juggernauts, they pick you up and throw you around. And it was a fun video game. And you could find a way to cheat. In most of the events, they would let Bart cheat a little bit because he was so young and undersized compared to the Juggernauts. And you would get extra points if you found the cheats and used them. And you had to get like high scores and make more money. You had to make enough money every week to be carried over to the following week. I loved it. I really liked this game. I will not move off of this. I think Bart vs. the Juggernauts is a good video game. Frankly, it's one of my favorite Game Boy games. I was never able to beat it. I could get pretty fucking close. I stand by it. And frankly, I think if Bart vs. the Juggernauts had been released as an NES or SNES game, it would have been a hit, and it would be the best pre-PS2 era Simpsons game if it had been released on a home console instead of the Game Boy. Bart vs. the Juggernauts is a good fucking video game. 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 score for my number 7 game. It's a good game. Speaking of what I do think is the best console Simpsons game prior to the PS2, number 6 on my list is Bart's Nightmare for the SNES and the Sega Genesis. To this day, I still think it's fine. I still think it's playable. We've done an episode about it in our archives of Remember the Game. The concept of it makes some sense. There's a whole bunch of Simpsons references again. There's varied gameplay when you go level by level. I think the only level in this game that's thoroughly broken is Itchy and Scratchy. If you've never played Bart's Nightmare, Bart is working all night on like an essay for school, and he falls asleep, and then you're in his dreams, and you have to go into these various weird mini games and get back the papers of your the essay you were writing. And every paper you get a higher score at the end of the game. Because when you eventually get game over, you get a score from like F up to A, depending on how you did on getting your pieces of paper back. So there's like an Itchy and Scratchy one where Bart gets pulled into an episode of Itchy and Scratchy, which I think plays like shit. I hate that one. There's an Indiana Jones one where you have to hop on, it's like the Temple of Maggie or something, and you're hopping from like rock tower to rock tower trying to get across this temple, and the fucking blue devil is chasing you and stuff like that. I actually think that one is fine. I think the swimming one where you have to blow up the germs, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. You're in like a bloodstream. You have to blow up germs. It's kind of boring. Flying as Bartman and shooting your slingshot is fucking awesome. And then the one where you're Bartzilla and destroying the city and then climbing up the skyscraper to fight Homer Kong at the top is the highlight of the game in my book. It's fun. I really like the scoring system with the graded paper based on how you did. My only major beef with Bart's Nightmare is that there's like a hub world, and you have to walk around in it, and you basically just look for pieces of paper to blow by, and then you can jump on the pieces of paper to go into like a mini game. But sometimes it could take 2-3 minutes for a piece of paper to blow by, and in the meantime, you're just walking around, slowly losing health, and that can get fucking really tedious. Like, the game needs some work. It could use a remake and some quality of life improvements, but I don't care. I still think it's a fine video game. Mercury869 wrote in and said, Bart's Nightmare is the worst Simpsons game I've played. This game was fucking terrible. Every time I borrowed it from my buddy from my Genesis, I always regretted it. See, I love, first of all, that you kept borrowing it. You're like, this game sucks. I'm going to borrow it from my buddy again. That warms my heart. And second of all, if you think that Bart's Nightmare, if it's the worst Simpsons game you ever played, that's fine. But then you didn't play a lot of those other Simpsons games. Because Bart's Nightmare, as someone that grew up with Bart versus Space Mutants, Bart versus the World, Escape from Camp Deadly, Bartman meets Radioactive Man, or whatever the fuck it was called, Krusty's Funhouse, this game was like fucking Super Mario World compared to some of the shit games that I grew up playing for The Simpsons. It has great graphics, a decent soundtrack. I think it's fine. I think it's a fine Simpsons game, and I frankly do think it's the best Simpsons game prior to the PS2. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 as well. Number 6 on my list is Bart's Nightmare. I like that fucking game. Number 5 on my list. This one might be a little bit controversial. I'm going with The Simpsons Tapped Out, the mobile game. And I know, microtransact. I know. Let's get the comments out of the way right now, and then I'll try to justify why I have it ranked at number 5 on my list. Captain N wrote in and said, I haven't played many games, but a special fuck you to Tapped Out freemium cell phone game. It's just one of those games that tarnishes mobile as a viable gaming platform and inspire companies like EA to use loot boxes on the bigger consoles. I don't disagree that the microtransactions really, and the loot boxes, whatever, take away from the game. I don't disagree with that. I still think it's an okay game, but I don't disagree with that. Alex Zimmerly wrote in and said right below that. Oh, pardon me. So I only took part of your comment, Alex. Are a few gems that I don't see getting the recognition they deserve. Virtual Springfield on the PC was a great point-and-click adventure that led you explore the town. Voice actors and all were here, and for the time, I remember being blown away. The second would be, and I'm a little ashamed to admit this, the mobile game Tapped Out. It's a great time waster or companion when you're on the bus or the John. The fact that it's self-aware that it's a money-making mobile game is on par with The Simpsons humor. I appreciated the deep cuts that were unlockable, like being able to place night boat near a canal or building the escalator to nowhere. Even during Halloween, they updated it with the Treehouse of Horror theme. That was a nice touch. You can enjoy it without money, but it's EA and they know what they're doing. Anyways, love the show, and just curious if you have a post Principal and the Pauper favorite episode of The Simpsons. Have a good one, Mr. Blank. For the record, my favorite, so like everyone dunks on that episode. If you don't know, that's the episode where the real Seymour Skinner comes back, and it's a pretty shitty episode. My favorite episode since then by far is Behind the Laughter. I would say Behind the Laughter is a top 10 Simpsons episode of all time for me, and it's from like season 11 or 12. I love that episode. But no, I agree, man. Listen, I understand that it's a mobile game and it's full of microtransactions and it's kind of shitty. I get all that. It was really fun at one point. And if you're a diehard Simpsons fan and you grew up loving that show, just seeing the town and basically, if you don't know the storyline of the game, if I remember correctly, I think it's Homer basically blows the town up. And then the town needs to be rebuilt. And as you play, you unlock different landmarks. And like you mentioned, like the escalator to nowhere, the Quickie Mart, the Simpsons house, all these different things from around Springfield. And you can basically build the town however you want. It's a classic mobile game. There's loot boxes and you got to, you only play it for so much time. And then you got to fucking wait or pay to keep playing. And, like I get that it's got all the mobile warts and everything. But at its core, I think that Simpsons Tapped Out was a really fun game. I played it for quite a while. I never put a dime into it. And frankly, I think if it had been made as a console or PC game along the lines of like a Sim City instead of a mobile game full of microtransactions, I think I'm not even being sarcastic. I truly think it would be the greatest Simpsons game ever made. If they made Simpsons Tapped Out as a console game like a Sim City where you just pay your money once, it's done, and then you rebuild Springfield however you want, I think it could go down as the greatest Simpsons game ever made. I think there's that much potential in the concept of it. I didn't play it religiously, but I did play it fairly regularly for a while. One of my most played mobile games by 100 miles. I don't know if it's still around or not, but yeah, I'm gonna fucking stick up for The Simpsons Tapped Out because at its core, there's a decent little game there. I'm gonna give it another 7 out of 10, and it's gonna be the last game that I've got in my B tier. Number 5 on my list is The Simpsons Tapped Out.
Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what kind of romance you're into, you don't have to choose just one. Fancy a dalliance with a duke, or maybe a steamy billionaire. You could find a book boyfriend in the city and another one tearing it up on the hockey field. And if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm. Discover modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Ali Hazelwood, the latest romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, plus Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander. And of course, all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
So I would say there's another break in the tiers now. There's 4 games left, 3 that I know are well received, and 1 that maybe isn't quite so much, but I love it anyway. So we're taking another jump. Now we're into the A tier Simpsons games. These are just the fucking good video games. And the first game in the A tier, number 4 on my list of Simpsons games, is The Simpsons game for Xbox 360, Wii, PlayStation 3. I don't know if you guys remember it. It was basically a self-titled Simpsons game. Admittedly, I don't remember a ton about it. I played it once, like the weekend it came out. I bought it from Xbox 360. I beat it. I liked it. My lasting memory of it was like, that was fine. That was a fine video game. But once I beat it, I never picked it up, never played it again. But like after years and years and years of just half-assed mediocre platformers and with Simpsons sprites on them and just shit games, The Simpsons game, it was like it was finally a video game built around The Simpsons. Instead of them making a shitty platformer and then throwing Simpsons sprites on top, I feel like this was a game designed from the ground up for The Simpsons. It's got a ton of tongue-in-cheek humor. It's surprisingly entertaining. I think it's better than the episodes these days. It was a surprisingly not bad video game. Master Vivi wrote in and said, gotta go with The Simpsons game. You got a gamer's score on Xbox by hitting start. The game was challenging, and yeah, a couple of really bad levels were in it, but when I only had that one new game for a while, you were a master at even the crappiest platforms by the time Christmas or birthdays came around. So like, I can't relate to that because by the time the Simpsons game came out, I don't mean to be like, I was a grown up, but like, you know, I was in my late 20s. I was, buying the games that I want. It's not like when I was a kid. Like, that's why I played Bart vs. the Space Mutants so much, because that was the only game I had. So if the Simpsons game was the only game you had, fuck yeah, master it. But I remember beating it and just thinking like, that was fun. Like, that's my lasting memory. It was like, that was a good game. I remember there was like a Land of Chocolate level where you play as Homer. I think there's a level where you play as Bartman. I know you get to play as all 4 of the main characters, just not Maggie. They put all these weird different areas in the game. Like, I think there's like a Call of Duty spoof level and stuff like that. Each one was with different characters from The Simpsons. You get to play as different characters. Tons of fan service. The one lasting memory I have of the Simpsons game is Comic Book Guy would pop up with sarcastic comments. And the one that stands out to me is there's a level where you can shoot like red barrels and they explode. And Comic Book Guy pops up and he's like, oh, exploding red barrels. Like, how original, or whatever the fuck it is. Which is just classic Comic Book Guy. It's not a particularly memorable game. I certainly don't put it even in the same conversation as like the 2 South Park RPGs or anything like that. But it was a Simpsons game as a Simpsons game, not a shitty game with the Simpsons, coat of paint on top of it. Games like Bart versus the Space Mutants would have been like a 3 out of 10 without the Simpsons license. Just putting Simpsons in it bumped it up a couple of points. I feel like the Simpsons game would have been a 6 out of 10 without the Simpsons license, but it really did play and look kind of like a modern episode of The Simpsons. It's a good, if you're a Simpsons fan and you've not played the Simpsons game, it's not available, I don't think, on any of the digital storefronts, but you can still find used copies. Give it a chance. It's not embarrassing. It's not an embarrassing video game. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 on my list and slot it in the A tier at number 4, the modern, just The Simpsons game, as it's called. Number 3 on my list is probably my hottest take and the most controversial ranking on this list. It is Simpsons Road Rage for Xbox, GameCube, and PlayStation 2. I know this is a hot take. I know it's not really that good a video game. I know it's just a crappy Crazy Taxi ripoff. I get all that, but I never played Crazy Taxi. I have no attachment to Crazy Taxi at all. I played the ever-living fuck out of Simpsons Road Rage, and I loved it. I'm not even ashamed of it. I am a card-carrying member of the Simpsons Road Rage fan club. I fucking love this game. And a couple of you do too. You wrote in and it made me feel better to know I wasn't alone. Michael Katz wrote in and said, I also really like the Simpsons Road Rage. I got it with my GameCube when it first came out and it was one of the few launch titles I chose. I also really liked Crazy Taxi on the Dreamcast, so I knew what I was getting into. This was just a better version of Crazy Taxi with random Simpsons quotes. A better version of Crazy Taxi. For all of you that have been on me to play Crazy Taxi for the podcast, I'm not saying Crazy Taxi sucks. I've not played it, but there's someone that literally likes both and says this one is better because all it is Crazy Taxi, but with The Simpsons, and it's awesome. This game is so much fun. I wish I still owned it. I would play it right now. I want to play this game. Welsh Destroyer wrote in and said, "Hi, Adam. I've only played a few Simpsons games and both were bangers. However, if I had to choose one, it would be The Simpsons Road Rage. This game was so much fun. Didn't have much of a story. It was more of a Crazy Taxi style game, which was a lot of fun. I do hope that these games get a remaster onto current platforms, especially in 60 frames per second." I fucking agree. Now, I will say, as I was writing this episode, I was reading that like Sega tried to sue whoever was in charge of Road Rage for blatantly stealing Crazy Taxi. So I don't know how that played out, but yeah, it is. It's Crazy Taxi, but with The Simpsons. I don't remember why the taxis aren't around, but it's because it's pre-Uber. But basically, all the characters in Springfield become Ubers, and you can like pick one, and you basically do Crazy Taxi. You drive around and try to rack up money and get to pick people up, and then you have to drop them off as fast as you can, and you get points for how fast you can drop them off. And like there were so many different characters with specific cars that were awesome. I'm pretty sure Marge was in it with the Canyonero. Homer had the family's pink station wagon or whatever the fuck it's called. Moe had his car with the rubber daisy on the hood. My favorite soundbite from the whole game was when you'd crash into something, because Moe was my go-to, and when you'd crash into something as Moe, he'd be like, geez, I hope that was a cat, which was my favorite. Barney had the Plow King truck. Grandpa had like a little Shriner's cart. You could unlock the Homer's green car that he designed and drive it as that. I was just addicted as fuck to this game back in the day. My friends and I played it multiplayer all the time. It's not great. It doesn't handle well. The graphics are awful. It clips and stutters and shit all over the place, but I love it. Easily the most controversial ranking on this list. Easily the one that I have the most nostalgia for, which got it bumped up a few spots. Although I do think that the Simpsons game is the only game I would realistically put it ahead of it. So like there's two games still in front of it, which you both know. Everyone listening to this knows what two games are still in front of it, and they belong ahead of Simpsons Road Rage. And I would listen to an argument that the Simpsons game belongs ahead of Simpsons Road Rage, but there's no other Simpsons game I would put ahead of it. I just think it's that much. I really do think that it's that much fun. It really is. Shut up. It's really fun. 8 out of 10. I fucking love that game. Now we're down to the final two, and I know we're already at A tier, but I'm gonna up it one more and say we have an S tier, because there's two Simpsons games which I think are almost universally considered the two best Simpsons games ever made. We all know which two they are. It just comes down to what order would you put them in, and I just eventually I wasn't gonna be a bitch and be like they're both number one. Like, no, there's no participant ribbons at fucking Remember the Game Industries. One of them had to come out on top, and I made my decision. So I will say the first of the two S tier Simpsons games, and my number 2 ranked Simpsons game of all time, it's the Simpsons arcade game. And it's a personal preference thing between this game and number 1. They're both awesome. I put Simpsons arcade game in at number 2 because, frankly, I just don't think there's much to it. It's fun. It's fun. We've all played it. When I go to a bar with a fucking arcade cabinet of it, bet your ass I'm going to get a pint and I'm going over there and pumping some money into the Simpsons arcade game. I like this game as much as the next person. At the end of the day, though, it is just a standard quarter munching beat 'em up. There's not a ton of replay there, right? It's the same reason I'll always rank the original TMNT from the NES ahead of Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. It's not that Turtles 2, the arcade game is bad, but it's like I can play it one. It's just basically you're just mashing punch and jumping. Right? Like, you all know what I'm talking about. At the end of the day, it is a classic beat 'em up. It's an awesome beat 'em up. That's why it's number 2 on my list and in the S tier. I just prefer something with a little bit more, here's your one per episode, meat on the bone, than the classic Simpsons beat 'em up. It's still sweet. Marge is a beast. She's the best character in the game because she's the Donatello of it. Because if you've never played it, it's such a stupid, there's an episode about it in the Remember the Game archives too. Such a stupid storyline. Mr. Burns and Smithers like steal a diamond or something, and then they crash into the Simpsons running out of the store. The diamond goes up in the air. It somehow lands in Maggie's mouth. And then instead of just taking it out of Maggie's mouth, Mr. Burns and Smithers kidnap Maggie. And then you have to chase her down, and you can play as Homer, Bart, Lisa, or Marge. Bart swings his skateboard. Lisa swings her saxophone, I think, or maybe it was a jump rope. I can't remember. I never played as Lisa. Lisa's the Raph of this game. I'm gonna get some shit for that. Marge swings a vacuum cleaner, which is a little bit, it's maybe a little bit sexist by today's, maybe a little, I don't know. Is it? It doesn't matter. She's the Donatello of the game because she's got the long reach, and then Homer just straight up throws punches. He's awesome. It's a great fucking game. The Simpsons arcade game is so much fun. We had a ton of comments about it. I'm just going to rip through a couple of them. LaQuisha wrote in and said, my favorite is the Simpsons arcade game, partially because it's the only Simpsons game I've played, and partially because my boyfriend wanted it for his birthday present, so the full-size cabinet is now sitting in our living room. That is fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. I love it. And Nomad wrote in and said, the Simpsons arcade game is far and away my personal favorite. Not only was it a great beat 'em up, I had some fun memories with it. One time at a local arcade when I was younger, I jumped in with a group of 3 other kids who were playing. Those kids were going the distance and I joined right near the end. I had to play as Marge and I wasn't very good, but we all made it to the end of the game and won. But my favorite part was when those random kids would give me some of their quarters when I died so I could keep going with them. We need everyone to beat Mr. Burns' kid. Let's go, was what one of the kids said. That's the kind of stuff you never forget. That's fucking pure. And I love it. And yes, you want to bond with strangers, you play an arcade beat 'em up with them. Turtles, X-Men, Simpsons. That's you bonded. You're brothers and sisters in arms when you've been through that kind of shit. 9 out of 10 score on my ranking. Number 2 on my list. Borderline 1B. I'm just not going to be a bitch like that. I'm going to give it a number 1 and number 2. But number 2, the Simpsons arcade game. So that leaves one game, the other game in my S tier. I think everybody knows what it is. Probably the game we got the most write-ins about. It's the Simpsons Hit and Run for Xbox, GameCube, PlayStation 2. Of course, I think, I don't think. Without the arcade game, it's easily the most popular Simpsons game ever made. Based on the feedback, I still think most people consider it to be the greatest Simpsons game ever made. Again, no wrong answers here. I'd totally listen to an argument for the arcade game. Simpsons Hit and Run is a good fucking video game. They were like, let's take Grand Theft Auto and make it into The Simpsons. It's Saints Row, but with The Simpsons. And it is so fucking fun. And it's polished and it's clever and you get to explore Springfield and the voice acting is great. It's written out like a full episode of The Simpsons. You get to come across so many characters. There's collectibles if you want them. The reason I put it number 1 ahead of the arcade game was the meat on the bone. There's a lot of meat on Simpsons Hit and Run, whereas you can beat the arcade game in half an hour and then you're like, well, that was cool. Hit and Run, there's hours of gameplay here. Just quickly, a couple of the comments we got about The Simpsons Hit and Run. That Bailey guy wrote in and said, The Simpsons Hit and Run. It was such a fun game to just cruise around in, but once you start doing the missions and building the story, it gets even better. The last missions were so tough, but it felt like an accomplishment to finish that game. A re-release or sequel to this game would be awesome. I fucking agree with everything you just said. Tim Tiani wrote in and said, Simpsons Hit and Run. I loved the arcade Simpsons game because I was too young to realize if it was any good, and honestly, I didn't mind throwing quarters at it, but the game I remember the most is Hit and Run. The little one-liners just thrown all in that game. I don't remember any of the specifics of it other than it made me laugh a little bit every time I played it. Agreed. Yeah, it really was like playing a good episode of The Simpsons. Tom Calvert is going to have the last take, who wrote in and said, I haven't wrote in for a long time, and I just saw this pop up on my phone and had to chime in. Simpsons Hit and Run, hands down. I'm 23 years old, and I wasn't allowed GTA until GTA 4 was in its prime, so I missed San Andreas and still am yet to finish it to this day. Hit and Run was my childhood. I remember I would sit and play for hours on the original Crystal Xbox, driving around Springfield causing havoc. When I was bored, I switched up the level and messed around then. One of my greatest ever achievements was beating that game as a kid. I know many haven't managed it yet. Also, I managed to find the secret car on both level 3 and 6 by myself, and I was shocked when I found them. What a game. Definitely in need of a remake for sure. I'm a little envious of people that grew up as kids playing Simpsons Hit and Run when I had to grow up playing fucking Escape from Camp Deadly and Bart versus the Space Mutants. Because the Simpsons Hit and Run, like, it's not a good game because the Simpsons license is it. It's a good game without any of that becomes a great game when you throw the Simpsons license on top. I still think it's the best Simpsons video game ever made. Top quality writing, great graphics, good voice acting, getting to see the town, get all the family. It's fun to play. It is a little tough at times. Some of the last missions are borderline kind of cheap, but it's still excellent. It's not available anywhere, so if you see it at a flea market and you got a console that can play it and you're even a casual Simpsons fan, I highly recommend looking into Simpsons Hit and Run. And I don't think it's super expensive. I don't know, because every retro game is fucking expensive these days, but I think it's still reasonably priced. And if it is and you see it, pick it up. It's fucking awesome. So number 1, 9 out of 10, along with the arcade game. Both the games got a 9 out of 10. Number 1 on my list, Simpsons Hit and Run. So just quickly, as a summation before I end this podcast and move on with my life, in the F tier are the games I haven't played, including those 2 crappy Simpsons sports games on the PlayStation 1. In the D tier, you've got number 13, Virtual Bart, number 12, Bartman Meets Radioactive Man. In my C tier, you have number 11, Bart Simpson's Escape from Camp Deadly, number 10, Bart vs. the World, number 9, Krusty's Funhouse, and number 8, Bart vs. the Space Mutants. In my B tier, you have number 7, Bart vs. the Juggernauts, number 6, Bart's Nightmare, and number 5, The Simpsons Tapped Out. In A tier, number 4, The Simpsons Game, and number 3, Simpsons Road Rage. And in that super spectacular S tier, number 2, The Simpsons Arcade Game, and number 1, Simpsons Hit and Run. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for listening. That was a lot. I didn't drop as many Simpsons references as I expected to, but I still had a great time doing this. I love The Simpsons so much, at least classic Simpsons. And maybe someday we'll get another good Simpsons game. Who knows? Will the Simpsons Arcade Game and a Simpsons Hit and Run ever be topped? There's your question. And I'm telling you right now, if they ever dropped like a SimCity version of Tapped Out, it would beat both of them. I fucking thoroughly believe that in my heart, in my soul. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of Expansion Pass. Thank you so much for the support, everybody. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow with Game Patch 90.0, and I'll be back next week with a whole nother big, fat, juicy slab podcast, because that's all I do with my life. I'm going to get out of here now and take my dog for a walk. Take it easy, everybody. Talk to you on the next one. Purple Monkey Dishwasher. Cheers. So long. Farewell. Goodbye. Hey.